Hi, everyone. It's Andrew Seaman, LinkedIn news editor for job seekers and Get Hired. I'm so glad that you're here today on Get Hired Live. And as always, I would like to start by welcoming you and having you introduce yourself into the comment stream. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your job search, where you're looking, what you're looking to move into. And then also be sure to connect with each other. One of the great things about this show is that I hear afterward from people who say, hey, I connected with someone who had a great experience watching watching the show, and we now do job searching together through Zoom or through a little group. So connect with each other, start networking in the comments, and maybe you see someone who wants to look in your industry. Maybe you see someone who wants to look in the area that you live in. So just connect and see, maybe you can get some synergy going to help your job search along. Obviously, we are also going to be taking your questions, so make sure you get those into the comments as well. We'll be looking for those. We have a great guest today. She is a career and talent development consultant and a great job search guide and person who helps a lot of people with their career. So I want to start off by welcoming Latesha Byrd to the show. Latesha, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hey, Andrew. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, thank you. And, one of the things that I wanted to talk first of all about is you do a lot of talk and a lot of posting about career empowerment, not just the idea of finding work and propelling yourself in your career. Can you tell us a little bit about what career empowerment is?
Yes, I am all about career empowerment. So, career empowerment is really about finding your why, knowing your worth, and going after what you deserve in your job search. I think that a lot of job seekers, you have a lot more control in this process than sometimes we don't really realize. And so when it comes to career empowerment, it's all about understanding your brand, your value add, what you bring to the table, and to be really bold, courageous, and confident when you're communicating that and articulating that value add to recruiters and to hiring managers. Same way when you are interviewing, right? Or when you start the job, or when you're going up for promotions. It's all about understanding that you deserve everything that you want in life and in your career. So that's what career empowerment is.
Great. And, I think there's so many people who maybe they're struggling with that right now because they don't have a job or they're looking for one in this difficult market. And we have so many people joining us. We have Evelyn from Boston, Tracy from Atlanta, Wanda from Oregon, Gary from Canada, Judy from the UK, Deborah from Michigan. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced Oregon. I sometimes put a different spin on that. And also my doorbell's going off. But can you tell us a little bit about how people can recapture sort of the momentum in their career and their idea and joy of looking for work?
You know what? That is a great question because I think we have to reframe how we view our job search. I know it's hard. I know it takes a lot of energy. I know it can be exhausting to keep applying, to keep interviewing. You're waiting to hear back, right? What about if you actually sought some joy in this process? You have to be committed to the process and not just the outcome. And so, what I would say for those of you that are applying to jobs right now is to reward yourself for the little things. Don't just wait until you land an interview to celebrate. Don't just wait until you get the job offer to celebrate. Reward yourself for even applying to jobs because that takes a lot of energy. Right. Once you get to the interview, it does take hours. I recommend spending at least 4 hours preparing for interviews. So make sure that you are rewarding yourself when you are interviewing. Take this opportunity to really delve into self-development and personal development. So you can find joy in the process. And you also have to know that, sometimes things don't come easy, right? If they were easy, everyone would be doing this. Everyone would be going for these jobs that you're going after. I don't see looking for jobs as a weakness. I don't. I see looking for jobs as a sign of strength. It's a sign that shows that you know that you deserve more in your career and you know that you're destined to do bigger and greater things on a grander scale. So if you really think about where do I see myself 10 years from now in my career and how the next opportunity is going to help you get there, there can be some joy in that. So I would just challenge everyone to really engage with that future version of who they want to become.
I think that's great. And we have Anna who says, love that question. Joy of the job search. I am loving this journey. So Anna, I'm happy to hear that you are finding that momentum. And I also like the idea, especially when you talk about goals in your job search, the idea of micro goals. And that is sort of like, they propel you forward because it's like, you're not setting something so lofty, something out of your control, and you feel accomplished once you do them. So I love that idea of saying like, let's do little things, get that reward, and then just keep going. So I think that's great.
Yeah. And two, I mean, this is really about being well-rounded when it comes to applying to jobs, right? So, if you are only sitting on your computer and you're filling out job applications day after day, you want to make sure I used to tell people that you want to make sure you're stepping away from the computer. But of course, just during the time of being in this pandemic, a lot of us are now having to work digitally, remotely, and there's not a lot of opportunities for in-person networking. You still want to make sure that you're having conversations with those that are in your industry as well too. So don't just apply. You actually want to spend more time reaching out, building connections, having informational interviews, really building your referral network. And I think that's something that we'll talk about today, because majority of roles are first filled internally, right? Because it costs a lot of money for companies to have to hire someone externally. So first is internally, and then second is through referrals. Are you tapping into your referral network, right? You may already have someone that's connected to someone that's connected to someone else. So that is a huge chunk of what really goes into this process instead of only applying to positions.
Definitely. And don't step away from your computer just yet. We have a lot of questions to get to. So, and if you're just joining us, this is Get Hired Live. I'm Andrew Seaman, LinkedIn News Editor for Job Searching, and I'm with Latesha Byrd, who is a career and talent development consultant. So let's dive into some questions. We have a bunch coming in. And the first one, I think, is one that's top of mind for a lot of people. This is from Suzanne. Can you expect to land a job with a salary equivalent to the one you had prior to COVID? Or is that unrealistic? And I think a lot of people worry about that right now.
This is a tough question. I will say that I think that with this pandemic, it definitely is a very hard time. It's a very hard time for many of us. So many of you all may have been furloughed. Your hours were cut. You've had to take a pay cut at work, right? And so this is the harsh reality of what we're going through. However, I do think that you should not have to take lower pay just to get your foot in the door. I am very passionate about this because as a career coach or a career consultant, I work with a lot of women. I work with a lot of women of color as well. And we know that women are underpaid in the workplace. And so I think it is important to make sure that you are negotiating your salary still, even throughout this process. And if a company really wants you, they're going to engage. They're going to continue to have a conversation with you, and they'll tell you what they can do and what they cannot do. And then I think it will be up to you to make that decision as to, should I take this or should I walk away, right? When it comes to salary negotiation, I encourage everyone to have 3 numbers in mind. So your top number is your dream. This is the number that I really, really, really want, okay? Then that's like that base or that middle number is, okay, here's more of an ideal salary number that I'm going for. And then that bottom number is, I cannot go lower than this because I still have to take care of my family, take care of my household, and really still live my life, right? So if you have those numbers in mind, you should be able to know, okay, I can't go any lower than this, right? So you definitely want to think about that, and also continue to apply and interview and engage with other organizations. So hopefully you can start to counter some of the offers that you're getting for higher salaries. I've seen that it's a little bit more easier to negotiate salary when you have some collateral.
Yeah, and I think one important thing to do also is is to know your value, because I know there's a lot of great tools now online to sort of know what the going rate is for a position. And that gives you sort of a ballpark of what people are being paid. And I think that's also something good to sort of keep in the back of your mind of saying like, okay, what are other people in my position being paid? And it gives you some ammunition going into to say, you know, I'm not going to start out behind someone else in this position, so I deserve this or that. So I think that's great advice. And then we have a question here from Richard, which is also, I think, what a lot of people worry about. And basically he wants to know, will being out of work be detrimental to getting hired? And a lot of people are in that position.
No, you know what? It bothers me sometimes. And as a coach, when companies will say, "Oh, you have a gap on your resume. What happened?" Right? I mean, life, right? Like life happens. Maybe we have parents that are sick. We have children that we have to tend to. We need a mental health break, right? There are things that happen that is out of our control. And so please do not worry about that. Companies have to be sensitive to the times that we're in. Okay. Unemployment is at the highest that it's been in a very, very, very long time. And so I'm very hopeful that companies are much more sensitive to the fact that, especially I know in the US, I know you all are all over the world right now, over 20%, I think employment got up to over 20%, right? So if you were laid off or furloughed due to this pandemic, due to the economy, companies should not be holding that against you, especially during these times. So that's what I would say to that. You know, if you do have a gap on your resume, you will be able to just speak to it, right? Just speak to what happened. You don't have to go into full detail. You don't have to give a full-blown story. For those of you that maybe have been looking for a while and nothing has been kind of working out for you, talk about the things that you have been doing during this gap. Are you continuing to invest in your personal and self-development? There's a lot of online courses, even with LinkedIn Learning, right? How are you continuing to professionally educate yourself to grow your skill set? Maybe you can do some freelance work, but talk more about the things that you have been able to do instead of focusing on the things that have not been going well for you during this time. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. And, you know, Richard actually followed up and says, thank you for the great answer. So Richard appreciated it.
Awesome.
And I think also, you know, what I've been saying to people on the show is basically that hopefully all recruiters and hiring managers, if they see that you lost a job or you left a job in March 2020 or even through July 2020, they're going to know why. And they need to have that grace and understanding because it's affecting so many people. So I think you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah. And we have another question, and this comes up quite a bit, and this is from Utkarsh. Does a degree matter or the skill set? So I think a lot of people worry they don't have a college degree, but they have a lot of real world experience in a field. And how would you suggest people who struggle with that move forward with their job search?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did want to call out Charlene's comment. She said, if the company holds your gap in time in your resume against you, that speaks volumes about the company. So I just wanted to reiterate that. So the question about skills versus, you know, a degree, being self-taught, you know, a lot of us are self-taught now, right? A lot of us are self-taught. We have access to a lot more information and tools and knowledge now, especially in 2020, than we've ever had before. I think with having so much access to information, you know, we definitely can educate ourselves and learn new skills and trades along the way. With that being said, it's really, can you get a job? Yes, you can get a job being self-taught. But what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to do things a little bit differently. You want to be able to demonstrate how you have been able to utilize these skills that you've gained. So I work with a lot of tech professionals, at a lot of doing UX, user research, you know, a lot of coding, those types of things. So you will want to present a portfolio. How can you show samples of your work, right? How can you show that in a way where a recruiter, a hiring manager can see that and say, okay, I know that this person has done this already because they were able to demonstrate it. So I have no doubts that they can come in and do this for our organization. It's really about the positioning. It's really about the branding, and it's really about the messaging. I think it really speaks volumes when someone is self-taught, because you got to be disciplined to do that, right? So focus more on the work that you've done, the value that you've added, and how that can be applied to the type of roles that you're interested in.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I think a lot of people, they experience that not only because they maybe not have a college degree, they may have a degree that's unrelated to what they pursued professionally, and they worry that that might hold them back. And also, something that people worry about is when they want to do a career change. So we have Jessica and Taylor here who are basically asking, what do you recommend for people when they want to switch careers? Maybe you were going from a hospitality or hotel industry and that's been hit so hard that you want to go to something else. How do you make that case in your job search that says, hey, listen, I have these skills that I can use in your industry too?
Mm-hmm. You always want to think about your most transferable and your relevant experience. The thing is that a lot of roles now, where maybe you were doing them in person, how can that be translated into doing it online? How can that be translated into doing that digitally? With that being said, let's say that you are in the customer service field, as you mentioned, hospitality. You're talking to customers, you're talking to clients every single day. Communication skills, customer service skills are so valuable, I think, in the job market, because we work with people every single day. For the most part, we all have our subset of clients. Even if you're not in a client-facing role, you still have people that you have to answer to or that you have to work with. For some of us, right? Depends on the industry. So really focus on how that can be transferred online. For example, I have a client who was in that space, and now she's looking at customer success roles. She has a lot of experience working with customers in a different capacity, and now she's really just shifting to how that can be done online. So that would be my biggest recommendation. And hey, is it time for you to make a change? That's up to you. I think that this time has really forced a lot of us to have to sit with ourselves and say, am I truly happy in my career? Am I fulfilled? If I have to do this for another 5 years or 10 years, am I on the right path? And it is okay to redirect and try new things if you would like to. So I would really encourage anyone out here to not just think, I did this one thing for my whole career, that's the only thing I can do, but also to explore different areas of interest. And you have to make sure, we haven't talked about this enough, you do want to make sure that you are having conversations, building your referral network, and also just letting people know that you're looking for work and asking them what type of opportunities. Well, first, is your company hiring, right? What type of opportunities are available that you think would be aligned with my skill set? You never know how that could open up the door for future opportunities.
Definitely. And I think, what you said about sort of changing careers and looking, it's, I think, important for people to know that it's okay to do that. I think so many things are going on right now where people are really sort of evaluating their lives and saying, what do I want to do? Do I want to go here? So it's normal to think, even during these difficult times, that you want to do something else. And as long as that's going to make you happy in the long run, it's going to pay so many dividends in the future because you're not going to be miserable in your job. And I think that's so important for people to know. So thank you for that answer. And, we have some people here asking about the getting access to the hidden job market, but also networking with recruiters and target companies. So we have, let's see here, Io asking about the hidden job market, and then Victoria asking, how do you network with recruiters and companies without seeming aggressive or too direct? And how do you think people should sort of tap into that hidden job market through networking, and then also the idea of reaching out to people without seeming too aggressive?
Yeah, that the hidden job market is definitely a thing, you all. Sometimes companies post positions and they already know who they want to hire. Just saying. So this is why it is important to have relationships. How do you actually go about building relationships? I am a former recruiter. So prior to doing this work of career consulting and talent development and also diversity, inclusion, and equity, I spent a lot of years managing recruiting efforts. And, my LinkedIn was blowing up every single day. But one thing that I will say is that when an employee that worked at my firm reached out and said, hey, I need you to, I need you to talk to this person. I think they would be a great fit here. Or excuse me, or if they said, hey, this person reached out to me, I looked at their resume, I think they look great. Please, if there is an opportunity, facilitate the introduction, right? And so here's the thing, you might want to not only reach out to recruiters, but also reach out to people that are in these companies and are working in the same departments that could potentially be your coworkers, that could potentially be your hiring managers. You don't always have to go straight to the recruiter. And I would encourage you all to possibly, you could do both for sure. But understand that people hire people. You want to make sure that the conversations or when you're reaching out, it's not so transactional. So there does need to be some personality, be personable, be relatable. It doesn't have to be straight transactional. It should be relational because it is really, really about relationships. So I can't exactly remember the question, Andrew, but I think that the key is to, when you reach out, make it very clear as to what you're interested in. Be specific. Be specific. When you're reaching out to a recruiter, you can't say, hey, I'm open to anything, right? Because depending on the company, like Andrew, how many employees does LinkedIn have? Thousands, right? I don't know. You want to be very clear with who you're reaching out to so they know where to direct your resume to. That one recruiter you reach out to, that might not be the right person. So, and the other thing too is looking for those within the company, right? LinkedIn is great because LinkedIn has, we have first connections, we have second connections on LinkedIn. So use your second connections use your first connections to get connected to your second connections. I can't really speak enough to the value of LinkedIn Premium as well. So definitely utilize LinkedIn Premium. One really great feature about LinkedIn Premium is that on the job board, you can see the people that work at the company that you went to school with. Like maybe you didn't go at the same time, but it might show you like, okay, you went to this school. Here are some folks that went to this school too that work at this company. You already have a commonality there. So that could also be a great point to say, hey, I see you went to the same school. I'm a 49er in a Wolfpack. So I can say, go 49ers, and that will help me to kind of lead into that conversation.
Definitely. And I think, those common interests pay dividends. And, with people reaching out, there was so much good advice in that answer that you just gave. So thank you. Especially the be specific part of it, because you get people who will, email or in-mail and say, hey, tell me how to get a job. And I'll usually say, okay, can you be more specific? What point are you having trouble with? And also the specificity is a way for you to show that you've researched the company, you've looked into it. So it's not just that you're expecting them to bring everything to that conversation, that you're trying. And I think that that's such good advice. And then also just the idea of being genuine. And, something that I always hear is don't go for the jugular. So if you're making new friends, new networking friends, don't immediately say, hey, I saw there was this job at your company, get it for me. I think that's probably the fastest way to turn someone off from a networking connection. So I think that was such great advice.
Yeah, I would say too, like you got to help them help you,
Yes.
And so you got to do your research, right? And then also be very clear as to why you're a great fit for the role and why you're a great fit for the company. You also don't have to jump straight into saying, oh my gosh, Andrew, you are a news editor at LinkedIn. I've been wanting to work there. That's my dream company. You could find an article related to LinkedIn news or even like this live stream, right? And say, hey, I just want to share with you. Here's some things. I'm not saying everybody reach out to Andrew. That would probably be a lot of people, but and like, hey, I learned so much. Here are some of the things that I've learned, right? And give it some time, continue to do that to establish that relationship. And then you can kind of ease into it. Like sometimes with job searching, it's almost like dating too, you know? So like you don't go straight to a person and say, oh my gosh, I need to take you out tonight, right? You're like, let me try to get to know this person a little bit and then I'll kind of make my ask.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And I think we have Alex in the comments saying, what he likes to ask, which is sort of, what do you like most about working here? What behavior values do managers value? And I think those questions are usually, especially for a new connection, like the best way to sort of get into a conversation with someone, because you're not immediately trying to get something out of them. You're just saying, hey, I'm not really expecting anything. I just want to know how to be successful. So I think those are great tips too. And, and we have a question here, which I think is, always controversial, which is cover letters. And that is from Anirban, which is, what are the main things to keep in mind while writing a cover letter? And before you start, I just want to get don't just make it 2 lines, because at that point, you make the recruiter and hiring manager upset that they even bothered to open it. So, for people who are writing cover letters, what should they keep in mind?
For those of you that are writing cover letters, what should you keep in mind is not 2 lines, like Andrew said, but also not 2 pages. Make it succinct. Be very clear as to why are you interested in this company. Use that time to tell a story, right? Like not about your childhood upbringing, but what about the company attracted you to the work? What about your life journey has attracted you to this industry that you're now pursuing? Telling a story about how you broke into your industry and then going into your value add in what you are known for or want to be known for. I encourage all of my clients, and whenever I teach LinkedIn workshops, is to think about what your career vision statement is. Or excuse me, what is your career brand statement? Who are you? Why do you do what you do? Who do you do it for? And what are the results? And then you speak very clearly as to some clear examples that demonstrate that. So it's great to be personable, tell a story, talk about why you're related to the company, why you're a great fit for the role, and then also give some very specific examples. And that's what I would recommend for a cover letter. Of course, if you know the hiring manager, if you know the recruiter's name, put it in there. Do some research and put it in there. If you were referred by someone, throw that in there too. I also think a cover letter is a great place to maybe put some things in there that you wouldn't really put on your resume either. So yeah, that's what I would say for cover letters.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And that's one of the things where you could sort of slide stuff in there, whereas like, I've heard John Smith say such great things about working at your company and your culture, such as, these days that you have to celebrate, the culture of your company, maybe like giving back and things like that. And that's like one of the ways you could sort of say, I know someone there and they could vouch for me. So I think that's great advice. And, one of the questions that we have here, which has come up a lot, and I've seen a lot of people ask, and I think this might be a good question to end on, which is, what are the next steps post-interview apart from sending a thank you letter to help land a job? And I think this is this question was asked by Blenda, but I think a lot of people, they sometimes struggle with hearing back from people after an interview or knowing when to sort of move on to other opportunities. So what's your advice post-interview for people?
Yeah, that's a great question. This really kind of goes back to the first question that Andrew had asked me about career empowerment. Again, you have to know that you're a prize here. You have to know that you have something of value to add. So it is important to not put all of your eggs in one basket. You always want to make sure that you ask for a timeline. That should be a question that you absolutely have to ask is, what is this timeline? And they say, okay, just give us a week, right? Maybe give it a week and a half and follow up. If they say 2 weeks, give it 2.5 weeks and then follow up. You can follow up a couple of times, but It does bother me too, y'all. I'll say it bothers me that recruiters aren't obliged to like let candidates know if they got the job or not, right? Because sometimes you're sitting and you're waiting and you don't hear anything back. So ask for the timeline so that you can keep in mind of what your own personal timeline is as well. Continue to apply to other positions. Even if you made it to the final round interview, do not stop applying. I don't care if that's your dream company and that's your dream job. Do not stop applying, right? So, like if it takes a week or if it's been 2 weeks, if it's been a month and they still haven't reached back out to you, you already are working on other opportunities simultaneously, right? And hey, let's say that company comes back and they give you an offer. Well, guess what? You have another offer over here or 2 offers over here. So then you can say, you know what? Y'all are kind of taking it a little bit longer. Don't use my words, right? You can put this in more professional terms, but hey, I just want to let you all know, I really want to work with your company. I know I'm waiting to hear back from you all, but I did receive an offer from company B. So I just wanted to check back in with you, right? That's going to give them intel to say, oh, okay, if we really want this person, they're in demand right now and everybody wants them and we need to move a little bit faster. So that's why I recommend not putting all of your eggs in one basket.
I couldn't agree more. It's that idea of like, don't fall in love until like you have a commitment, because otherwise they may move on and leave you behind. And if you sort of stop, yeah, exactly. Until you got the ring, and if they've moved on and you sort of stood in place, that means that you're behind. So it's one of those things where you just keep going and realize that they need to want you. So I think that's fantastic advice. And thank you so much for your time. I know we have so many people here who got so much out of the conversation and your answers. And is there anything else that you think, you want to leave with job seekers who are watching? Any sort of final advice?
I would just say to, again, like not give up. Put yourself on a schedule. I love talking all things job search strategy. Please connect with me on LinkedIn and also visit my website and sign up for my newsletter because I do try to share as much career advice as I can. I would encourage you all to, when it comes to job search strategy, put yourself on a schedule, okay? Also, don't spend hours on top of hours looking on job boards all day. That is not good for our mental well-being. Take a break, right? Take a break if you need to. Maybe 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're looking at job boards, but split your days out into chunks. Maybe one day is looking at jobs. The next day is applying your resume and your cover letter. The next day is you have a couple of days for informational interviews. So definitely make sure you're putting yourself on a regimen. And like I said at the beginning of this, just reward yourself for even putting yourself out there and having conversations and applying.
I think that's great advice. And also, I think the schedule part is so important, because even when I have slow days and I get to sort of, set my own pace a lot of times, I put myself on a schedule just like, and I print it out so I know what I got done. And I even have time in here to reach out to people, just not even a specific person, just I make time to sort of reach out to people so I can say, hey, how are you doing? Things like that. So I think that is fantastic advice. And thank you so much for joining us. You've been flashing your LinkedIn profile at the bottom, so make sure, hopefully everyone follows you.
Yes, thank you again, Andrew. Thank you all for being a great audience.
Definitely. And thank you all for joining us today, as always. And just a reminder that we go live, the LinkedIn News team goes live every day at noon, every weekday at noon, with a new show. And then I'm here every Friday at noon talking about getting hired during these difficult times. So next week we have Adrian Tom joining us, who is an executive resume writer and job search strategist. So be sure to join us for that at noon Eastern time next Friday. And, until then, I hope you are staying safe, you're being well. And remember, you can only get hired, you can only be a good candidate if you're well enough to do so. So make sure you're taking care of yourself, you're being careful, you're following all the local guidelines for your health officials. And then until then, best of luck with your job search. And I'll see you back here next week at noon Eastern time on Friday.